The most special moment, I think, with my dad would be the last trip we had when we went to South Sudan. And I remember for the first time, he never stopped praying. We would talk because it's a long journey, and we were driving a bus, by road. It's quite a long journey from here to South Sudan. So it's the first time for me that I shared a moment with him where he's not looking at me as, oh, this is my last born kid, my child, you know?
Yeah.
He talked to me like a man, the things that he had gone through. It was something he has never done, you know? He was always my dad. At some point he told me he never thought he would own a bicycle. Because back in the day, people were just so poor. Like, to have a bicycle, you were so rich.
Yeah.
And so one time, miraculously, he gets a bicycle, he parks it. He didn't want to park it inside the church because that was disrespectful to God.
Yeah.
But he should have, because for security reasons, but out of respect for God, he parked it outside. After the sermon and everything out of the service, he comes outside and it's gone.
Welcome to Pastor JoJo. That's how you ask people how they're doing here in Uganda. It is a privilege and a blessing to be here in Uganda. Today, I got a friend of mine. To tell you the truth, I am yet to know more about his life because I had an opportunity to know a little bit, and I've known him for so many years. He was a person that we grew up, even though he's same age, but we always thought of him as a star, person we want to meet and greet. And one night I had a chance to sleep on cushions at our place, at my parents' house, because they came for a mission trip and it was a group of so many people. So we had to put cushions on the floor and sleep there, many of us. So one night I got a chance to be beside him and hear his story. And it's been almost 8 years from that time. So today I have a chance to sit with him, and join me as we welcome Richard Kaweesa. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you. But Civil Never was a shock to me. I was like, hey, okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember Luganda. I try. I can understand, but speaking is a little bit tough.
That's really dope.
Yeah. Thank you for making time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me. Over the time since you started the podcast, it's really been a big change. I was like, Pastor JoJo can actually be a very good interviewer.
Trying.
Yeah.
Trying.
But thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, yeah, thank you for coming. Let's start by telling people who you are, a little bit on your background.
So my full names, should I start like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so my full names are Kaweesa Richard Paul. And over the years, I've been known by Richie Kaweesa. And that was what the nickname that I used, the stage name that I used back in the days when I was still an artist. But today it's just Richard Kaweesa.
Richard Kaweesa.
Yes. Used to be a recording artist back in the day. Signed up to the label and all that kind of stuff. But then now I switched over to just ministry, and it's been like 4 years that the Lord has been telling me He had put it on my heart to start doing music again. And then the birth of Highest Worship was out of that as well. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I hope it sums it up.
Yeah. We're going to chop a little bit on all that big picture that you gave to us. But I know you grew up in a family where your parents were ministers in the church.
Yeah.
And if you're like every other pastor's kids, you were disciplined to attend church, to minister in the church, to participate in different presentations in the church.
Yes.
How was it like? Now you're going to make it personal. So how was it like when you're still a child?
My childhood was mostly just watching my dad. Like, my dad was more of like the rock star. Like, he was the preacher, the prophet. So he would, when we went for ministry, at that time, I think I was too young to take it in and understand completely. But I was immersed in it because of Sunday school, the experiences in Sunday school where we had to be the pastors, where we had to preach and prepare sermons and stuff like that. So at some point it had to become real. But still, I don't think consciously I was really understanding what was going on. And the whole thing, the whole idea of ministry, the whole idea of church. But what I knew is that God was real. Experiences in worship, experiences in His presence were just that immense, that powerful. I remember in one of the miracle services where my dad just stood up and picked out one of the worship singing and was like, God, well, you need to repent. Well, you didn't, you spent last night with a boyfriend or something like that. So it was intense. The fear of the Lord was really intense. So
Yeah.
through all that kind of experience, I think that shook me up. That really did shook me up. And it kept an impression on me that God is real. But I don't think I really had consciously developed a real connection with God like now. So my childhood was, be in church, be there, see what's happening. And I think also the Bible truths were always with me growing up. Because I remember when I got into high school, I was like, you know what, I want to go out there and experiment and see what's outside church, what's outside Jesus, what's outside the whole Holy Ghost experience. And then for years, I think it was just me chasing around my thoughts and stuff like that. But eventually, I think 2015, that's when eventually I turned back to God, because that's when we lost our dad. And then we got a word during the morning process where I don't remember who it was, but they told us, well, now the Lord's servant is gone, so that you guys can now also serve the Lord. And I remember one minister saying to me something. It wasn't a very bad state, but he just put it out there. He was like, well, if your dad had stayed, you guys wouldn't have ministered. He was that kind of person, because I don't know if you've ever had an experience where you were, think about it like this. If you were Benny Hinn's son, you practically don't need to do anything. You're just there to hold his bag or to carry his Bible, kind of idea. So that's how my dad was. We would just, I'd show up just to show up, just to see if he's good, if he needs anything. And practically he was somebody who was very self-sufficient. He didn't want anybody to do anything for him or, but over the years, when I think about it, yeah, in a way that being close to somebody like that, it's like being close to a very large tree. Once it's cut down and there's no more shade, no more fruits or what, you start to think of growing yourself. You start thinking of, okay, now I need to develop, I need to grow. So that's my childhood in my own eyes. I think that's what it was like.
Yeah. I'll come back later to the role that your father played in your life. But going back a little bit, you mentioned about being a recording artist in secular music. And I remember the time we had started to watch you on TV, and we'll be like, I know that guy. He's talented. I love his voice. I love his music. But then sometimes we'll be like, why is he in secular music? He's a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us a little bit on how you started that journey and how that journey looked like?
So there's a journalist back in the day called Malcolm Muggeridge. He wrote a book called The Chronicles of Wasted Years. So that's what you're asking me to do. To tell you about my Chronicles of Wasted Years. But back in the day, so in high school, I just got this idea. I was like, you know what, I've lived my whole entire life in church. I've lived my entire life in the Christian circles. And I just wanted to see what more was there. And I think the idea was probably just wanted to explore more about other worldviews, what's going on in the world. And that's kind of the same time when I got invited into a recording session. Vince Musisi, I don't know if you know Vince, but he called me up to his studio, and he had a friend who had a concept. They did a poem, and then they wanted to get like a chorus for it or something like that. So Vince is like, I know my kid brother will come here and help me out. And so I go there and I don't really know what's happening, and he's like, yeah, just play around with it. So this was before the owner of the song came in. And then, so we played around with different verse styles of choruses until we got it. And so when the owner of a poem came through, his name was Steph. He comes in, hears it, and he loves it. And he's like, you know what? I have to take you to open mic sessions. I have to take you. And I'm like, what's an open mic session? It was my first time to enter a club. And they take me into a club. They were doing this open mic sessions, and and he was like, let's go and perform what we did. Let's perform the poem with the chorus, with music. You can play the guitar. And I'm like, oh, yeah, let's do it. So for me, it was pretty much me just being there, just, I don't know what's going on, but I'm like, okay. And then from there, a gentleman called Ali, he comes up to me and he's like, young man, I want to sign you up on my record label. He gives me his business card, and I'm like, getting signed up to a record label? I don't even know what a record label is at that moment. And so I say, okay, I'll give you a call. So I go home, and then a few days later, I get called back from Ali, and then we get to meet up. I have to take a lawyer because they're giving me contracts to give me all these things. And so I reach out to one of my uncles, Uncle Paul Bukenya, and then he helps me out to sort out everything legally. And so they look at it, they know it's okay. I get signed up to a record label. Now, at that time, for me, it was just about doing good Jesus music because that was all that I knew, I was in the world, but I was still a church boy. I was still Christian. I was still born again. But I would say I was like Peter the first time when he's with Jesus, like the disciples, the first time when they were with him before he dies and resurrects and then leaves them with the Holy Ghost. At that time, you're just having fun walking around with Jesus. He's making miracles, doing things, and you're just enjoying the benefits.
Yeah.
And that was my Christian life. Enjoying what Christ had given to my family, to my life, all that stuff. And I'm just going on for the ride. And so at that moment, I was not yet consciously, radically sold out for Christ, setting boundaries and stuff like that. So I get signed up to a record label, and it's a wild ride, man. Like, you get money like you never got money before. It's just the wrong world to be in. Yeah. And, later on, I realized this is the devil, because you see what Satan does. He gives you something you can't handle. You're not yet developed to handle.
Yeah.
And I think, we were just wasting money, just having a good time, going to a show, they give you $5 million and you walking away with a whole lot of cash. And then you're like, you know what? Let's go to all the supermarkets. Let's buy stuff. Let's do this. I get with my boys and start just wilding out and stuff like that. Get into girlfriends and stuff like that. It was just, but then, later on you start feeling that you get to know, because the Spirit starts to convict you, and the reality of it is like, well, this is empty. It's not really satisfying. And I think where it really comes down to, as good of a life it can be, I think it is designed in a way that Satan will always give you something that you cannot handle. So you will never benefit from it. They can give you a whole lot of money, but your mindset is, well, they have to see me on TV. They have to see me here. They have to, you're always doing something to up what you last did, to do something like that. So it keeps you in a loop where you can't have satisfaction and say, okay, now this, what I have is enough. So it drains you in a way. It's like a trap in its own setting. So what happens is, I think it was 2014 where I got called up into a competition, and we went with Morris Kiria. And so we're there in Kenya. It was. So in Kenya, everybody was there, like everybody concerning music industry, East Africa, from Chameleon from Uganda, AY, Shah from Tanzania, you have Nameless, you have all these kind of people, like everyone who you're supposed to know was really there. And so I was struggling to find my groove. I was struggling to get a vibe. I was just singing, but it always felt empty. When you're in church, you don't realize that we sing from the Spirit of God. Like there is something, there's a well that the Spirit fills us in. So when you sing, it's like you're drawing from the Spirit, in order to sing, in order to do the thing that you're talented to do. Yeah. But when you're in the secular realm, if you're not worshiping the devil or any spirit, so you're empty. So you're drawing from space, and it drains you because you can't get a vibe. You can't feel like this is it. We did this well, It doesn't have that satisfying end to it. So what happens is, I was going on stage. I think it was maybe my second last time. And just before I got onto stage, we're waiting for the cameras and whatnot for the presenter to say, now Richie Kaweesa, it's his time. just before that, I'm standing backstage and just about to go on, and it's the first time the Spirit of the Lord connected with me. And he says something that I'll never forget. He's like, you see this show, how it has judges, it has the fans who vote for you, judges, the cameras and everything. He's like, this is a minuscule setting of an industry, of a music industry. It's like they're the people, the guys that you're supposed to please. If you don't please those people, you don't get in. You don't get the big shows. You don't get the big money. You don't get the big contracts and stuff like that. And then the fans, well, you're going to be a slave to the fans if you want to have fame and stuff like that, because people will always be judging, criticizing it, saying, well, this performance was a bit dry. I didn't like this. I don't like the way you dressed. And I don't like the people I don't like the girl you're dating or something like that. So you either sell, and so the Spirit of God right there told me, it's either you're going to sell yourself to the world, to be a slave to the world, to appease them, so that you can keep on making money and living big and, going out to these big shows and stuff like that, or you will come and serve me.
Yeah.
So I go out there, sing the song. The back of my mind, this thing is just banging. Because I remember at some point I called my brother, Pastor Isaac, and I told him, you know what? I'm struggling for the first time. I'm like, I know I'm a good musician to a point that I can sing and have people backing me. But for some reason on this show, things are not happening. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't catch a vibe. I can't catch a groove. Like, I feel like I'm singing songs, but it's as though I'm in an empty space, hitting a rock or something like that. And I'm like, I don't feel anything. No energy, no nothing. So I think a little bit over that, I later got voted out of the talent show. And then so I come back home. It hit hit my pride, because I was like, I'm one of the best voices in Uganda. How am I the first person to be ejected out of the show? So I come back home.
Was that Maisha?
Yeah, that was Maisha.
Oh, okay.
So I sit home and I'm like, no, what's happening? So I start to play back everything. And that word from the Spirit just keeps ringing in my head. And I ask myself, is this the kind of life that I want for myself? Seriously, do I want to be a musician who's performing in and out for audiences that probably will, end my career, or, who I have to please and stuff like that? Do I really want to sell my soul to this kind of circumstance? In the audience, during the time, so people like the artists, the big artists, they were mentors. Morris Carrier, Chameleon, and all these different guys. And Morris Carrier, man, I gotta give it to him. He was an awesome mentor. He's always there supporting and everything. But I recognize that, in my spirit, I don't want to divulge something that should be private.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to miss something that could be important.
Yeah.
But okay, let me just break it down like this. I recognize that it was not enough, even for them. Because Chameleon has been in the industry for over 40 years. I don't know, 30, 40 years. And he's still looking for the next gig. In my mind, that didn't make any sense. If you're this big, you've made all this kind of money, you shouldn't be out there looking for the next gig. You should have been way famous, way rich, that you don't really have to go looking for the next gig. But it is the reality.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that is really enough. So I asked myself the question, should I be in a situation where I'm always looking for what's next? What can I do next? If I don't do something next, something new, something big, I'm out. And it is the reality of the industry. If you go silent for some time, you're out.
Yeah.
New kids are coming in, singing way better music, way better pop beats and stuff like that. New stuff keeps coming out.
Yeah.
And it's either you get caught up in the rat race for the rest of your life, or you give your life to Christ and, start serving God. So that's what was in my mind. That's what was in my head.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make the decision to serve God. But there wasn't a defining factor for me.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything pressing for me to go that direction. So I remember at that time, I was still signed up to the label. It was called Connector. Very good people, very supportive people, very hardworking people, people that look at you, believe in you, and want to build. And I think we had just got an opportunity to join up with another record label. And the idea was so that they can make it big, so that I could make it big, And these guys were ready to bring in all the resources needed, talks of getting me a house, talks of getting me a car. And at that time, you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting a house, I'm getting a car, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The things that we dream of, the things that we want. And so we were having this conversation, so they drafted up a contract. During that time in that season, that's shortly after that, when my dad died. Now, at the funeral service of my father, that's when my whole life changed. For a brief, like it was like a few seconds. The funeral service organization, I think it's called A+. They were carrying the caskets of my father, Pastor Eddie, Pastor Scott. And just for a brief second, I saw angels walking side by side, like a guard of honor for their lives. And that, for a brief second, has changed my entire worldview. So the question inside of me was, well, I can be a superstar singer and go out like that. Once I die, what would my legacy be? A bunch of baby mamas, cars and houses.
Okay.
What would be the purpose behind it? And then, or I could have what my dad and Pastor Ed and Pastor Scott had. Because at their funeral service, it was men and women that were touched by the ministration of these people's lives. The testimonies kept coming like for 6-8 months after my dad died. You would find random people and they'll tell you how he just preached to them at the right moment and in the right time in their lives to change their whole world around, and how God has blessed them. And so that was the idea. That was the day that I think I finally had the last drop of evidence or conviction for me to really, really start serving God.
Yeah.
So I think a few months after the funeral, I think I went to God and I said, Lord, I don't know if I can do anything for you. I'm a mess by myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but if you can use me, I'm willing. And so my mom, she got a word that she had to take on the work that was in Wakiso. It was just a baby church by the time my dad died. They had just opened it up on I think it was the Christmas season of 2014. Yes, 2014. And my dad died in March 2025. 2015. 2015. And so I joined my mom. So we go to Wakiso. I don't know nothing about ministry. At that point, it just became real. Like you used to see it, but you were never part of it. And now the whole mechanics, the whole technical bit of it, you have to be part of it. And so I became everything and anything that my mom needed. I was like, you know what? I don't know why we're here, but I got your back, because someone had to do it. At some point, I think we were all really just broken from losing our dad.
Yeah.
And if anybody in the family, it had to be me, because I was the single one. I was, what are you doing? Everybody else got a family or something like that. They're in church. They have their pastors in church. So it was up to me to join her.
Yeah.
And for, I believe it was 8 years, just watching her grow as a pastor, grow as a minister, take charge of the whole ministry. And God uses her to do things, to have words of wisdom, to do things. I'm like, okay, I know that was not you. As cool as you are, I know that was not you, that was God.
Yeah.
And so it was just constant growth, constant changes, constant things that you start learning, oh, this and this and that, this and this and that. You get to know the thieves of ministry. You get to know, okay, this is what happens. When you have such characters come around, you get to know all these different types of things that happen in ministry. So I think that was the journey for me, coming from being a recording artist. But I remember, so after we lost our dad, I had to make the choice, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to call up these people and give them the sad news that I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back to record. And I didn't want to make it vague, to give them hope that at some time I'll come back and we'll pick up from where I left off.
Yeah.
So I called them and I told them, you know what, I'm not coming back, because I knew me going into ministry, they will never understand. But I also knew quite well that you cannot be, you can't have one foot in the world and one foot in church, and it will work. It will not work.
Yeah.
So I just decided to blindly let go of everything and just follow my mom. And so right now, I think I've given away 10 years of my time in ministry. And just recently, now God is starting to give me now some of my life back. But I made the choice, made the call, called everybody and told them, you know what, I'm not going to come back. They were broken. I remember one of them coming to me and telling me, man, you're too talented to waste your life in some region of Uganda where they know nothing of music. Pastor Joe, I think for around 7 years, I didn't do anything musically. I didn't do anything musically. I totally left it. I told God, you know what, if music is a distraction, I'm letting it go. So I was in my own world,
Yeah.
And then God used a lady, one of the old ladies in our churches. She's called Jaja Jen. She calls me and she tells me, the Lord told me that you should go back to singing. Join the choir. She said that. And she's like, you should join the choir or he will kill you. Because in the dream, she was like, well, I saw a dream and people were crying over you. They were like, well, Richie died. And people were like, oh my goodness, he's so young. That scared me.
That's so
So I'm like, okay. Lord, you don't need to kill me. In the choir. But I think I was, in those moments, in those days, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not stepping back. There's a thing about music that when we were young, our parents, the churches then, man, they only needed a drum, a local drum to just get a beat going and the worship goes.
Yeah.
If the church got instruments like a piano, drums, a good set of drums, guitars, basses, that was seen like a blessing, but still an unnecessary blessing, because they had very little experience of music. Of even the instrumentalists would really, play 3-4 chords and that was it.
Yeah.
But so when you're in the music world, you get to meet the best of the best. You get to meet guys that play forever. Guys that just make you dream of playing. You're like, man, you've inspired me. Help me play like you. And he's like teaching you all chords and scales and stuff like that. So you go back to church and you have your piano guy who plays 3 chords every Sunday, man. Every
song has to fit 3 chords.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it has minor chords. It's just the same, the 1-4-5 chord setting, and so you get tired of it. You're like, if God, I'm supposed to step in this. This is a mess of music. This is not music. This is, I don't know what this is, but but that had been the pattern from our parents, because for them, they didn't need that. They just wanted God to show up. That was the heart of it. And so in church, because you have that in the back of your mind, you want God to show up. But then you have a whole flock of people who don't understand that, guys, it's okay. If we improve as musicians, God will still show up.
Yeah.
And how do you get people that were used to the 3 chords to dream bigger? And these are people that are stubborn. Church people, I don't know if there is more stubborn people. I think church people are the most stubborn people in the world, because they will not say yes. They will find reasons to say no to anything that is change.
Yeah, because they say if it has worked for years,
exactly, why change it? But then you start telling them, guys, let's take a look at other churches. Look at Lakewood. I mean, I don't know if I think some of the churches in the West, it doesn't feel like a church service. It feels like it's a concert. Every Sunday morning, there's a great concert with music and all these things. And so I tell guys, and I'm like, but if you guys can listen to that music and love it from the ministers. And the great thing about it was, for me, I think when God started using the Nigerians as well, when Nigeria started having many very good musical ministers arise, like the Nathaniel Bassis, the Theophilus Sunday, and all these others. It was something that I used as a challenge for the team. And I was like, guys, these guys are Africans. Now you can't say, nah, these are Western people. They do their thing differently from us. I was like, well, these are Africans, and their services are quite surprisingly very good. So I think it took me like a couple of years where God just changed the whole group until we have a new generation of people that are willing, a new generation of people that they're seeing things the way I see things. So the music became much easier, and the services, I think we're still growing, but the good thing about it is that now we have moved significantly from the 1-2-1-4-5 kind of music. Every song has to fit in here. To we have to learn the chords, we have to learn the lyrics, because people here would sing the melody to the song instead of singing the lyrics. Goodness of God is one of my favorite jokes. Most people are like, you behave. And you're like, what? What is? So they sing the melody instead of singing the lyrics. But it's been something for me that has been a big journey.
Yeah.
God brought my cousin, Pastor Bala, in my life around the same time when I'd started going back to the choir. And he's like, man, why don't you do music anymore? And I'm like, well, because I don't want to do music anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't be like that, man. You can't be like that. You got to do music. So I get a word from one of the fathers in faith, Apostle Tria. And then he comes up to me and he's like, you know what? God has told me that you need to do music again. And I'm like, well, I'm in the worship team. And he's like, no, that's not what God is telling you to do. He's like, he wants you to have a platform of worship. And he's like, maybe you should get a guitar, sit in front of a camera. And I'm like, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I tried that. I got frustrated with it because everybody else's in front of a camera experience sounds so good. It sounds like it was produced.
Yeah.
And this guy's just acting. And for a while I tried it, frustrated me. And I'm like, well, if God wants me to have a platform, let him give me a band. Get me a band, we'll have a proper platform. Because in my mind, you just needed people.
Yeah.
And so we had a worship night at church. And so Kenny brought in all the guys and he's like, Musuba, we're coming for the worship night. They invited us to play. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. At that point, Kenny, if I remembered correctly, was just a student of music. He was just learning. Gone to the same school that I went to.
Yes.
The same music school. And I didn't think he was any good. And I was really surprised to hear how good he was. And I'm like, but I think in the classes, some of you guys got the actual book and some of us just got whatever was left, because you can't be this good in this little time. And then he was just laughing, and man, it was just a powerful night of worship.
Yeah.
Very powerful. At the end of it, so I tell him this idea and I'm like, well, God told me to start a platform of worship. I don't know what he wants to do. And I'm like, but guys, if you were in for it, let's do it. And then they were like, yeah, let's come through. So God did it in a special way that he joined us together. And then we started highest worship. The first one, they didn't even know that there's going to be any sound. So when they came in the backyard of my mom's house, they didn't expect to see anything. So we got speakers and stuff and just placed it there. And so when these guys came through, they were like, oh my goodness, oh, this sound is everything. And they're like, oh, okay, let's do this the right way, let's do it. So the first highest worship, we didn't have lights.
Yeah.
In my head, the security lights, that was just enough light.
Yeah.
I was like, why do we need light? Everything that God has just added onto the platform over time just came as a surprise, because people are like getting more and more serious. They're like, man, we need lights. We need a carpet. We can't be standing on the ground and wires everywhere. We need a carpet. We need to be more organized.
Yeah.
And so it started growing like that. And so that's how I started to do music again.
Yeah.
We had first previously before that tried to do music in studio again. It didn't work. God frustrated it. He frustrated it. Like it just didn't work. We tried everything. We went to producers. It was just never the right producer.
Yeah.
The funniest thing was when God told me, I want you to do music again. In my head was go back to studio. All my producers are now living in the West. All of them. Like there was no one left. So I had to get a new producer, talk to new guys, try to see if we can build something. And it was just not happening.
Yeah.
It was just not happening. So when we started Highest Worship and started doing the music and everything, and now the dream of recording live will be actualized this year, sometime this year. Wow. So it's been quite the journey because a lot, I think, from my old setting, the Spirit was just doing a work of transformation and just changing the pattern and changing. I swore to myself I would never go back to anyone that I used to know in the music industry for anything. If I need a venue, if I need promotion, if I need anything, I told God, well, you started this, you're going to manage it, you have to be responsible for everything. I'm coming to you. Because it's, you can never be completely safe. You're just one phone call away from getting some kind of deal that would just be itching your ears and something like that. And then you'll try to justify it later.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like that, man. When I left the world, I left the world. I was like, I'm not listening to any secular music ever again. Like up to today, I would be lying to you if I remember who's the biggest artist, even in Uganda, even in the West, even who were all the biggest hits. Like I know nothing. Like I worship music. If it's the latest worship song, probably I know it. But it was just one of those things like when you walk out of it, you just don't want to go back because it's a loop.
Yeah.
You enter it, the cycle sucks you in and you're gone forever. Mm-hmm. So I think I've said a whole lot of things. I don't know if I've answered.
I am enjoying because every question that I thought I would ask you has been answered, even those that I didn't think about. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I am ready to hear because there are parts that I have missed, I've not known. Because the time I got to know you, there is also many years that I didn't see you.
Yeah.
I would have a chance to follow on Instagram, on Facebook.
Yeah.
But on those platforms, we only see what you show us.
I know.
So there are some things behind the scene. The only few things that I'm keeping wondering that I thought about when you talked about both before the passing of your father and after.
Yeah.
Knowing that your family is full of ministers.
Yeah.
And almost all your brothers and sisters are singers.
All of them.
Great worshipers. And this is not just regular singing like all of us. What were they thinking of you if they ever opened up to you when they were in the church and you were outside the church?
So every now and then my brother, Pastor Phil now, he would tell me, man, you're doing the wrong thing. But he was a musician as well. But for him, he was only a musician for Christ, singing reggae gospel music.
Yeah.
And so he's the one thing that he kept on telling me, try to use your opportunity situation, turn it around in a way that turn it around for Christ. Always. So that's why we have the hits like True Love, Once You Found Christ, Everything's Nice. Yeah, we did a whole lot of reggae songs and stuff like that. And then the record label, they liked a few of those songs. And so that's why we put out some of those songs.
Yeah.
But then there was always the demand of do a song that can play in the clubs. Do a song that we can publish everywhere. It doesn't have to be nasty, but do a song that can, go out. So then we started doing I Will Not Sing those songs. Yeah. Then we started doing some love songs. I remember. That's how firm I am on not going back. So
I watched them. I listened to them.
Yeah, so those are the songs that up to today I still pray and repent and I tell God I'm sorry. Yeah, it was ignorance but those are the songs that I think that people that he would tell me, because there was always a struggle. In my family, everyone was like, what are you doing? But then at the label, they were like, man, you see, we want to make you like one of the biggest artists. But we can't, because we can't market Jesus everywhere. Jesus has a limit to your churches, to the born-again circles, but then to the masses, man, they need entertainment. They want something to get going. They just want to have a good time, a good vibe. And so you would go home constantly with the demands of the record label and then the demands of the Christian life, family life. So there was always a struggle there.
Yeah.
I don't
what
think
about your parents, especially?
my dad told me outright from the start. He told
Yeah.
me, God has not called you for this. So my question to him was, one time, I think it was out of my frustration at one time when he was telling me consistently, God has not called you for this. God has not called you for this. I was like, in church, who will pay me? Who's going to pay me in church? I'm like, I see you pastors, no one is paying you guys. So who's going to pay me? It was a conflict. Like, you know, at the bottom of your heart, you've been raised in church. You always have the Spirit of the Lord convicting you. I just remembered something. So when I got the second, the big opportunity that I told you about, when we had our record label, the big break that we were expecting, we had another label come join us.
Yeah.
So the resources were much more abundant. So that means we can get to do things like live recordings, bands and whatnot. And that's the kind of stuff that I always wanted, because, you know, music, just as music, is something that you can fall in love with. It's powerful. It's amazing. Like, it draws you in. And especially if you have a good bunch of good musicians, man, the music can become heavenly. It can become something else. I remember one time when we were in music school, they brought, I think it's a quartet. I think they call it a quartet. So it was a pianist, a violinist, a celloist, and a singer. They were from Korea, singing Christian normal songs like, Lord, I give you my heart. And you would wish they did stop. They were so good. Like, you would just die just listening to these guys. They played so good. Like, it was so good. And you were like, my goodness. Like, you know, in Africa, we have a challenge that our local music, the music that we like to listen to, the backbone is the lyrics. It's not truly the beats and how good you can play. It's the lyrics and the wording. So I think here in Uganda, people never really take mind to, oh, how good you guys played. Oh, that's such a difficult thing to do, what you guys did. They just be waiting for the words. And here you're singing English, and people want you to sing in Luganda.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of things that were going on in my life, I think, that just contributed. But then when we just got the big break, to just bring it back, I just told you all that so that I think it could build to this. We got the big break. I get the contract. I go home with it. My dad looks at it, and I tell him, man, I'm excited, man. We finally get the big break. We finally have the resources. And he looks at me and he tells me, the Lord has not called you for this. And he walks up and he goes into his room. I sit right there. I'm like, Dad, man, you must be crazy. This is a big opportunity. And then the Spirit of the Lord told me in that moment, you know, with the previous contract, you had room for me, space for me. But now, if you sign this, you have zero space for me.
Wow.
So that scared me a bit. I'm like, okay, so if I sign this, it's like signing with the devil. Like, I'm not going to have a moment with Christ anymore. So that was one of the things that made me sadly let it go.
Yeah.
You know, and that came shortly, I think a month or two, then his passing happened. So it was always a struggle in my mind. But the reality for me has always been that I had never yet made the decision to follow Christ.
Yeah.
I was a church boy. I was a Christian. In my mind, I was. My worldview was built around Christianity. But I had never set my heart to really be sold out for God. And the day I did, I remember I made the decision, I made the conscious decision to step back from everything that I was doing before. Because I didn't want, for some reason, to give the devil space to just suck me back in, you know? I was like, it has to be real that my father is willing to die for it, to let go of all the things that he was capable of doing. My dad was, I think, one of the people who had quite a great business mind. He would think of any way to turn this table, this chair, into a business. Like, he was that kind of person who had such a mindset. But then his part of his story was he's busy working in the city and God tells him stop. He had a shop and God tells him stop.
Yeah.
I've not called you for this. He goes to the States, and it was during the time when many people from Africa were moving into the US to find work. And then he starts working at a restaurant. So he says what happens is he works for like, I think, a week or two. In the second week, he says something impossible happened, because they would pile up the dishes and pile up like the saucepans and stuff like that. But the biggest saucepan came from the top of the shelf and hit him straight in the head. It was so painful. And he took moments holding his head down. And he was like, there was no way that saucepan could fall off, because they were placed in a place where like they were good. There's no way it could move. It was unexplainable. Then just after that, the Lord tells him, I told you, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be preaching the gospel.
Wow.
So in my mind, the one thing that registered, the one truth that registered, is that Christ has to be so real for somebody who's business oriented to leave the business world, to go to preach the gospel. And if that was the case, I was like, well, Lord, here I am. I'm going to let go of music, because I like, well, even the music I used to listen to, like the people they call the best musicians. I mean, these guys are the best sound. Secular music, some secular musicians, the sound of their music is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing. I would not say a name, so I don't want to influence anyone to go check out a secular musician. So there was a lot of things for me to die to.
Yeah.
Because, even as a musician, if you have a musical ear, you come to church, man, wow.
You want
It's
to go
a huge
out, right?
adjustment. So
Yeah.
it just took me a while. It really did take me a while to switch off. And so I made one solid decision. I'm not listening to anything, even the stuff that I used to listen to feel like, oh my goodness, to give you inspiration. I was like, I'm going to look for gospel music. I'm going to look for worship music. And the one thing I thank God for is that today we have gospel jazz bands that are really, really good. We have all kinds of genres. We have hip hop. We have R&B. We have pop. We have soul. We have jazz. We have raga. We have dancehall. We have every genre. In fact, right now, I think for the Christians, there is no excuse for you to listen to secular music. There is no excuse. Back in the day, maybe, because you didn't know any reggae musicians that were gospel,
Yeah.
But right now we have just a ton of musicians.
A lot of them.
Yes, a ton of musicians. And so, and it's something that I bless God for. Now we have no excuse. Now we can settle peacefully with our worship and praise, gospel, good music, and be at peace.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So 10 years of starting a new journey, 10 years of losing your father.
Yeah.
So it's a long time, 10 years of patience, 10 years of waiting until you come back to the things you used to do, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Thinking about those 10 years, what are the two special memories that you hold about your father?
Man, every memory about my dad. Like, I had a good dad. Like, he was strict. He was such a good dad. And the one thing that I think I treasure the most about my dad is how he loved my mom. Because that just set a tone for all of us. To understand that we have to be gentlemen, to understand that we have to be good men. And in many ways, I remember when I was breaking up with the girls my girlfriends back in the day, when I was still living a superstar life. The one thing that hit me the most was like, I couldn't be that man for them, I couldn't be that man for them. And felt a lot more disappointing. But with my dad, he was just, doing music, ministry right now just makes me think of so many things about how he decided to just, follow a pattern where he was just honorable in so many ways. And so the most special moment, I think, with my dad would be the last trip we had when we went to South Sudan. And I remember for the first time he never stopped praying. We would talk because it's a long journey, and we were driving a bus, by road. It's quite a long journey from here to South Sudan. In South Sudan, my dad and the ministry, UCOM, Uganda Christian Outreach Ministries, they had built a school and a church in, I think, nearby the border of Uganda, in a place called Moroto or Morobo, around like that. I think it's Morobo or Moroto. So in that region, we had a school and a church. And that particular year was the year when the first breed of graduates from primary 7. So we were going there to celebrate with them for the achievement. And it was different. It was the first time that he talked to me like a young man. And when you have a father who's been strict, he's quite a big image. He's quite a big figure. And so I was always scared of him as my father, not in a bad way, but in reverence kind of sense. I don't know if the kids today understand that. Like, your dad was scary. You get it. So
Yeah. I could be waiting for him to come home because I know he loves me. He'll bring something. But when he speaks, I listen.
yeah, you're scared, like, okay, what did I do wrong? What? So it's the first time for me that I shared a moment with him where he's not looking at me as, oh, this is my last born kid, my child,
Yeah.
He talked to me like a man, the things that he had gone through. It was something he has never done, He was always my dad. And then he tells me about how he went to the Billy Graham conference. I think it was in Amsterdam. I think it was in 80-something, 86, 84, something like that. And he's like, man, they had everyone there. Like the best of the best evangelists and whatnot. And then he was like, after Billy Graham would preach or anyone else would preach, and then they had a moment where they would go into different workshops. They did this thing where they could bring anybody from any part of the world. So there were people from Africa, people from anywhere. And so I was amazed. And it was that time I was just like intrigued about how Billy Graham, the whole ministry, how big it was, how blessed it has blessed everyone, And you would think about it like Billy Graham is like the royal family of like the born agains or something like that, that kind of sense. And so to actually hear that he had a moment with Billy Graham, he talked with these people, and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh my goodness. So you went through that, and then he talked about some of the challenges that he had in life. At some point he told me he never thought he would own the bicycle, because back in the day people were just so poor. Like, to have a bicycle, you were so rich.
Yeah.
And so one time, miraculously, he gets a bicycle, he parks it. He didn't want to park it inside the church because that was disrespectful to God.
Yeah.
But he should have, because for security reasons, but out of respect for God, he parked it outside. After the sermon and everything out of the service, he comes outside and it's new. It's gone. And so his life experiences, man, he was just breaking it down for me. And then I could see that he was a person who was like, you know what, God has given me so much.
Yeah.
And how awesome he was for him to get married to my mom and everything, and having kids, and like everything for him was just gratitude.
Yeah.
And for the first time we had our conversations, and then he just would stand up randomly and just start praying. So the entire trip, I remember even coming back, he was always praying.
Yeah.
And I didn't want him to carry his bags, but he was a stubborn man. He was always, doing his own thing at his own terms.
Yeah.
He would get his bag and carry them. He didn't want you to carry it by yourself, And we just had an awesome moment together. And the whole trip was just amazing, man.
Yeah.
And then we come home, and I remember I had a concert. Just coming home, I was not there for most of the rehearsals. I was like, nah, these guys are so good. They can't forget anything that I need. So I know I'm good. Came back after after that day, when we came back to Uganda, the following morning, that's when God took him.
Wow.
And so a week later, then we had the concert as well. Man, just thinking about him, man, it's just, there's so many moments where you think about him like, well, that was dad. That was typical dad. He was stubborn. He was,
Yeah.
there was this one thing he did. At a certain point in his ministry, he felt like he wasn't close. The intimacy with God was just not there. He wanted to get closer to God. So he disappeared for 2 months. Nobody knew where he was. So I was too young. I think I have to talk to my mom about it to just get more information. But he disappeared for like 2 months. So I was too young to even notice his absence. So everybody was in panic mode. My sisters, my brothers, the pastors, everyone was like, what is going on? Where is he? So he appears 2 months after that. And so I remember we were just playing as kids. And so someone comes and says, oh, your dad is back. And I'm like, he's back? He was gone?
Like,
So, and everybody just gathered to him, and his ministration, man, changed.
yeah.
So my dad came from telling people, this is what the Lord says, because he was a prophet. So he didn't want to come with, this is what the Lord says. There is something about that does something to a man. Like, however big you are, it humbles you. What has God said? So he took it from that perspective. And he would, if he met you and he had a word for you, he would package it in a way as though it's advice.
Yeah.
And he would say things like, so I think this is what you should do for your life. I brought one of my exes back in the day at home for them to meet her. I was excited, and she meets her, talks to her. So he didn't say anything to me. He says it to my mom. So my mom comes and tells me later. He like, bro, that's not Richie's girl. That's not Richie's girl. Like he never wanted to. For some reason, he never wanted to use this is what the Lord says. Bring it. Like he would just talk to people knowing. And so after he dies and passes away, so many testimonies that came to us were, your dad talked to me. And it's as if he knew what was going on exactly in my life. So he talked to me like he's advising me. But then I understood that this man must be a prophet, because no one knows what's going on. Only I know. So when you see some of those are some of the superhuman memories that we have of our dad sometimes. And yeah, those are some of them. So let me just start there, because I feel like,
Oh, thank you for sharing. As we come to the end, before I let you go, what is the message you could give to people who are struggling with making a decision to leave the world, because the world is providing that money, that house, those cars, future, the so-called secured future? What would be the advice that you'd give to those people? And probably on top of that, any piece of advice to the kids who have lost their parents, either both or one of them?
yeah.
Yeah.
The greatest promise in the Word of God is that I will be with you. There is no greater promise than that. I think my mind is very animated. You would be safe in the hands of the Creator than outside the hands of the Creator. If you have any kind of security that is not by God, that is the sowing in the wind. The literal definition of sowing into the wind is having a security idea, money, job, career that is not rooted in God, by God, for God. It's just you're like in a void and just awaiting sudden doom. A Nigerian pastor made a very descriptive way to think about it. He said that if you do not have God, you're like a balloon. Balloons?
Yeah.
Helium in it, floating in the air, in the space where aircrafts are supposed to operate. At any time, the devil does not even need to take you out, because circumstances will. You are not built to handle the pressure, the height, or anything that comes against you in that environment. So when you think about it like that, there is nothing in this world that can secure your future. In Zimbabwe, I think people had their money in the bank. People had saved up a lot of their money, fixed it in the bank, and they were earning the dividends that come out of it every year. And it was a secure, profitable way to live your life. And so what happened was when Mugabe did something to the economy and the economy fell flat, all those people that had a lot of money, they had literally no money. They would call you and tell you, you had $1 million. Let me use the word dollars because it's the biggest currency in the world. You had $1 million in the bank. Right now, that's the equivalent of $100. So where do you go from there? If you don't have God, this life is changing. The one constant in life is that it's ever changing.
Yeah.
But the word of God is always the same.
Yeah.
Always the same. So we rely on him because he's the same. He does not change like the stock market. He does not change like our situation. There was a day I couldn't believe I'm an orphan. When somebody told me that, you're an orphan, you lost one of your parents. I could not believe it. I could not digest that. And things change. Life is all about change. But the one constant thing in life is God. He does not change. His word does not change. His character does not change. So you can trust in him. If you don't put your trust in God, I tell you the truth, there is no other way to go. I tried out other ways, but it did not work. Other truths do not work. Christianity, I did not know this. Every other religion and worldview will emphasize work out your righteousness and attain salvation. Let it be Islam. They'll say follow the 5 truths of Islam, the fasting, praying, believing in Muhammad, reading the Quran, and all these things. And if you're diligent in doing these things, then it will be up to their God to save you and take you into their heaven. Let it be the Hindus. Forsake all desire. All desire. There is a mechanism of I have to do something to attain something.
Yeah.
It's only the Christian worldview where salvation is prior to righteousness. And righteousness is a gift.
Yeah.
It does not. It blows your mind. And sometimes you feel like this is too good to be true. But it is the reality because in the Old Testament, he tells them in Exodus, he tells them, look, I am the Lord your God that brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of slavery. There was nothing that the Jews could do to save themselves from their situation in Goshen, in Egypt. It was the miraculous hand of God, plagues upon plagues, until Pharaoh was like, okay, you guys can go. It was him who saved them. When Christ died for us, before we were perfect, we're not perfect yet, but like before we were anybody, he died first for us.
Yeah.
And so now what we have, and he gave us this gift, righteousness, so that we can have access with God, access to relationship, even in our imperfections, even when we fall and get back up. So it is the only worldview in the world that will give you salvation before righteousness. And even righteousness is in itself, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So, when you think about that, I think you have a far better deal with Jesus than any worldview, any mechanism of belief, anything that you could think of. And relationship with the Holy Spirit, relationship with God is like nothing else in this world.
Yeah.
It gives you satisfaction. It gives you, it does not mean that you won't have needs or wants or things that are not in your life. But what it is that it gives you the full satisfaction of life, meaning, purpose. And these are the things that the world is looking for. Why am I here? Why me? Why in this situation? Like God always talks to us about purpose, intent, life, where you're going, what you have to do, who you're supposed to be with, and all these different things. So I think it would be a loss for anybody to live your life for anything that is not Christ.
Yep.
I think to myself, AI is tricky. Like some of the makers of AI don't know how it's functioning, but all they know is that it's functioning. Like they put in all the algorithms, the algorithms. But there was one guy from Google who said, well, we know what we put in for AI to work, but AI is doing certain things that we have not participated in putting in it. So he asked for himself the question. He's like, how is this machine fulfilling these particular tasks? We did not build anything to support this or to help this. And they were like, they're scared that they probably made something smarter than a man for the first time. But I would say to you still, AI or no AI, only God is in control, you know? So if our lives are not in his hands, God is not like the founders of Google or the makers of AI. He has full 100% control of everything that is going on. There is nothing in your life that would take him by surprise. So it would be foolish for you to live life and die without knowing that. That's how I'm just making the same point over and over. But yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you also for showing us the side of the preacher man of you. That was an amazing conversation. Thank you for taking time to be with us.
Me, man.
Yeah, thank you for watching, and God bless you. Continue to be blessed. Like and share with others. May you have a wonderful time. See you next time.